Today we shall discuss about different methods for geological investigations. So, why do we go for geological investigations? All important civil engineering projects like dams, reservoirs, tunnels, roads, bridges, etc. are constructed on rocks or soils. Therefore, in-depth knowledge about the strata on which the construction is carried out is required. So, we need to know about the strata or the soil on which we are constructing these structures. If proper investigation is not carried out, cost may be considerably high and stability might be in question. If we start a project without proper geological investigation, later we might face stability issues and then the cost of the resolution may be high. What are the objectives of geological investigations? So, geological investigations are carried out to determine the geological structure of the area, that is, the presence of mountains, anticlines, synclines, or any other geological structures in that area. Then, the lithology of the area. Lithology is nothing but the study of physical characteristics of rocks present in that area. Then the groundwater conditions in that region and the seismicity of the region, whether that region is a seismic prone area or not. Now let's see the methods of geological investigations in detail. Firstly, we have surface investigations. These include preparation of topographic maps using the normal mapping techniques. Topographic maps show the elevation contours relative to some data. We know that topography is the nature of the terrain in that region. So, topographic maps show the elevation contours, that is, points having same height or same elevation or same depression shown in the topographic maps. Aerial surveys and preparation of photogeological maps are the latest methods of surface investigations. So, surface investigations are basically all about investigating the terrain or the surface. The entire area involving an engineering study is photographed using sophisticated cameras and controlled from low-flying aeroplanes. Now, the mapping of large areas are done by satellites. Imageries obtained from satellite surveys and aerial surveys are interpreted to prepare the maps. So, surface investigations are basically done using cameras and in satellites and aeroplanes. And these observations made by the cameras are interpreted and prepared the maps. Hydrological surveys are also conducted as part of surface investigation to get idea about drainage pattern of the area and discharge, location and discharge details of springs and other leakage points, location of wells and measurement of water level, precipitation and evaporation details. So, hydrological surveys are also part of surface investigations. So, hydrological surveys gives us idea about the water sources in an area. Subsurface investigations. So, for conducting subsurface investigations, two broad methods are used. We have direct methods and indirect methods. So, for subsurface investigation, we can directly examine the rocks and materials by digging drill holes, trial pits, shafts, galleries and exploratory tunnels. And this type of examination comes under direct method. Underground area are reached and samples are taken and tested in the lab. So in the direct method, samples are collected from the drilled holes, some sort of pits, galleries and exploratory tunnels, and these samples are tested in the lab. So the second type of subsurface investigation is indirect method. In indirect method, geophysical methods are applied to obtain accurate idea about subsurface geology. Here in indirect method we have various methods for subsurface investigation. Whereas in direct method, we directly reach the rocks or materials, we collect the samples and test in the lab. So we shall see an example in direct method. It's a drilling of borehole type method. A borehole is drilled up to a required depth using a suitable technique. Samples are obtained as the drilling progresses. During the drilling of boreholes, we come across a lot of layers of soils and samples are collected from each layer. These samples are arranged sequentially in special boxes. These boxes are known as core boxes and properly labeled. So the samples collected from each layer of soil is collected in the core boxes and they are tested in the labs. Subsequently, samples from each core box is examined for their important geological characteristics. These observations are summarized in the form of a chart which is commonly known as core log. So the observations made by testing each sample is made in the form of a chart, and this chart is known as core log. Core log reveal the nature of rocks present up to a given depth in a given area. When core logs from a few locations from the same area are collected and interpreted properly, very important structural features of rocks like dip and strike, repetition and omission of strata and thickness of each layer, etc. can be found. So this chart called core log reveal the nature of rocks present in an area. So the core logs prepared from different boreholes in the same area reveal a lot of important geological features in that area. So here you can see a typical core log. Here the depth of each layer is shown and what are the soil types present in each depth is also shown. Now how rock quality designation or RQD is found out. The core samples recovered from drilling are interpreted and tested for many desired physical and engineering properties of rocks. In one case, the percentage of solid continuous cores recovered during drilling to the total depth of penetration is expressed as rock quality designation. So, rock quality designation is a factor that represent the quality of the strata. A 100% RQD denotes excellent unjoined massive rock and less than 10% of RQD obviously indicates a weak or fractured zone. So based on the RQD we can decide if this strata is suitable for construction or not. And RQD is basically the percentage of solid continuous cores recovered during drilling to the total depth of penetration. So the main classes of RQD are poor, that is from 25 to 50 it is poor, fair if it is 50 to 75, good if it is 75 to 90, and excellent if it is 90 to 100. So in practice the RQD is determined as follows. The cores recovered from a borehole are arranged sequentially in a core box. The sound cores having minimum length of 100 mm each and free from natural fractures etc. are identified. That is, the solid should not be fractured. It should be continuous. So, cores having a minimum length of 100 mm and free from natural fractures are identified. Their length is summed up. So, length of layer, that is continuous layers are identified and their length is measured. Say if it is A is divided by total core drill run, that is A is the length of continuous solids and it is divided by total core drill run. So that is, it is the length of continuous solid, that is solid without any fractures, is A and it is divided by the total depth of penetration. Recovery is expressed in percentage terms. So in example 1, total length drilled, sum of lengths of sound cores. Sound cores means cores without any fractures. Total length drilled is 10 meter and the sum of length of sound cores. In centimeters we have 45, 40, 170, 140, 155 and 150. So these are all lengths of solid cores, that is continuous cores in each layer. So the total is 7 meter. Percentage recovery is 7 divided by 10, that is 70%. So RQD indicates fair. 50 to 75 is fair. So here RQD comes under the category fair because it is 70%. So RQD is nothing but the length of continuous solids divided by total depth of penetration. So if you add all these lengths and convert it into meter, it will be total 7 meters. So here it is given in centimeter, that is if you add 45 plus 40 plus 170 plus 140 plus 155 plus 170, it will be equal to 700 centimeter. So it is 7 meter. The total length of continuous or unfractured solids is 7 meter. So that divided by total depth of penetration gives the RQD value, rock quality designation. Here it is fair in the case of example 1. Now let's see the different types of indirect subsurface investigation methods. So the first method comes under the category of indirect methods is electrical methods. Different materials of Earth's crust possess different electrical properties. Resistivity, electrochemical activity and dielectric constant are the properties generally studied. So, different types of rocks are having different electrical properties. So the properties usually considered are the resistivity, electrochemical activity and dielectrical constant. So here we have different methods. Including self-potential method, So here a potential difference due to the electrochemical reactions between the solutions and the surrounding subsurface rocks. This is measured with the help of electrodes. So in self-potential method, the potential difference between any rock and the surrounding solution is measured using electrodes. In potential drop methods, an electrical current is artificially induced from an external source through the subsurface material at certain points. So at certain points, an electrical current is artificially induced. The flow of this current is recorded at different distances. The behavior of the flow lines of the electric current is related to the nature of the subsurface materials. So potential drop method is basically based on the current flow in different materials. Another method is resistivity method. We have already discussed about this method in detail. Here a non-current is introduced through the electrodes inserted into the subsurface. So at different distances, electrodes are inserted into the subsurface and the potential gradient is calculated, or the resistivity is calculated. Second method that comes under the indirect methods of subsurface investigation is seismic method. Shocks or explosions within the Earth's crust are always accompanied by the generation of elastic waves which travel in all directions from the focus point. So we have already studied about earthquakes. So earthquake waves are propagated from a focus point, and the velocity of these waves are different in different medium. Velocity of these waves are related to the nature of the medium through which they travel. Velocity of P waves, that is primary waves, depends on the modulus of elasticity and Poisson's ratio of the medium. So here in this method, a shock is created at a chosen point or location either by exploding a charge of dynamite or other methods. The waves so produced are recorded at different distances from the shot point with the help of special detectors. So we are here creating an artificial earthquake, a small artificial earthquake using a dynamite, using an explosion of a dynamite or any other method. So the waves propagated as part of this explosion is recorded using special detectors, and the velocity of these waves are related with the medium. Characteristic values of the velocity of P waves for different types of rocks have been broadly established. So the velocity of P waves, or using the velocity we found, we can find out the medium. Because the velocity of P wave totally depends on the nature of the medium. Here in this table you can see the velocity of P waves in different types of rocks. Basically we have igneous rocks, metamorphic rocks and sedimentary rocks. So in igneous rocks we have granite, basalt, gabbro, etc. So granite will be having a velocity from 5.5 to 6.1 kilometer per second. So if the velocity of the particular wave is in between this range, we can conclude that the medium is granite. Similarly, the velocity of P waves on different types of rocks are given in this table. For example, another example if we can take, shale is a type of sedimentary rock. So the P waves passing through the shale will be having a velocity between 2.3 and 4.5 km per second. The third method under indirect methods of subsurface investigations is gravitational method. We have a theoretical formula for finding the G value. G is equal to 978.049 into in bracket 1 plus 0.0052884 sine square 2 theta minus 0.00059 sine square 2 theta. So this is the theoretical expression for G, where theta is the latitude of the place under consideration. So this is the expression for finding the theoretical value of G, gravitational constant G. Here theta is the latitude of any area under consideration. The area where we have to find out, area for which we have to find out the G value, the latitude is theta. But the actual value of G may be different because here it is assumed that the earth is homogeneous. So this equation, this expression is developed assuming that the earth is homogeneous. But in fact, earth is not at all homogeneous. It is actually far from homogeneous. So for any given area, coming to this method, gravitational method, for any given area, knowing the latitude, that is the theta value should be known, the theoretical value of G is calculated. Then observations are made with the sensitive instruments to determine the actual G value at that place. So for any area, we have to find out the theoretical value of G and the actual value of G. Theoretical value of G is obtained using this expression, and the actual value of G is obtained using sensitive instruments. Under ideal conditions, both should be equal. Ideally, both these values should be equal, but when there is a considerable difference, a gravity anomaly is believed to exist, and that would be a pointer towards the existence of some unusual rock mass. So there should be a gravity anomaly. So this difference between these two values, that is the difference between the theoretical value of G and the actual value of G, is called a gravity anomaly. So gravity anomaly shows the existence of some unusuality in the rock mass. Earlier, to find the actual value of G, pendulum method or torsion balance method were used, and at present the gravimetric method is most commonly used. Gravimeters are instruments used to measure the value of gravity directly. So these instruments gives us the value of actual value of gravity directly. Deflections in the springs of gravimeters indicate the gravity anomaly. So in this instrument, the gravity anomaly is also showed. Isograms. Isograms are lines passing through the points of same gravity anomaly. So points having same gravity anomaly is connected using isograms. These lines connecting the points of same gravity anomaly is known as isograms. So isograms are drawn as a result of gravimetric observations. So using the gravimetric observations, isograms are drawn, which could be then interpreted to reveal the important conclusions like. So using isograms, we can arrive at different important conclusions like salt domes can be located from the presence of high value isograms surrounded on the sides by normal gravity value contours. So salt domes, presence of salt domes are indicated by high value isograms. So high gravity anomalies means presence of salt domes. Ore bodies with their trends fairly clean clear can be indicated by high value isograms. High value isograms that are fairly clear indicate the presence of ore bodies. Geological structures like anticlines and synclines are indicated by persistent gravity anomalies in certain directions. So such conclusions from the isograms give us idea about geological features in an area. Next method that comes under the category indirect methods of subsurface investigation is magnetic method. Earth is a gigantic magnet with definite magnetic field intensity of which can be calculated for any part of the Earth. So Earth is a gigantic magnet and it is having a magnetic field intensity at different magnetic field intensity at different part of Earth. Theoretical value of magnetic intensity may be quite different from the observed values at given location. So the theoretical magnetic intensity may be different from the observed values. The difference between these values are known as magnetic anomalies. So in the last method we heard gravity anomaly. Here we have magnetic anomaly. Magnetic anomaly is the difference between the the theoretical magnetic intensity and the actual magnetic intensity. So here magnetometers are used to measure the value of magnetic intensity directly. Horizontal and vertical intensities are measured. So from magnetometer observations we can find out the magnetic anomalies. Anomalies map are drawn as a result of magnetometric observations. So anomalies map shows the lines passing through the points having same magnetic anomaly. So anomalies map are drawn using the observations made by the magnetometers. So lines passing through the points of same magnetic anomaly is known as anomalies map. So and this anomalies map can be interpreted to reveal important conclusions. So similar to the isograms, anomalies map also shows different geological features in an area. For example, unusually high magnetic intensity shows presence of magnetic ore body in that area. The last method comes under the category of indirect method for subsurface investigation is acoustic method. It is mainly applied to determine the suitability of foundation rocks, whether the rock is suitable for construction, and to locate the weathered zones, caves and cavities in the rocks. So this acoustic method is basically to find out the weathered zones or cavities or flows in rock masses. Sound waves are transmitted in a controlled manner from the boreholes through the bodies of rock and their transmission velocities are recorded. So sound waves are propagated through the rock bodies and the transmission velocity of these sound waves are recorded. So acoustic wave velocity sketches are prepared for the site from which the positions of caves can be interpreted. So if there is any flow or cavity or cave or any flow in the rock body, it can be identified by using the acoustic wave velocity sketches. Because the velocity of sound waves in different rock masses or in different medium are different. So this is all about geological investigations. We have surface investigation and subsurface investigations. So in subsurface investigation, we have direct method and indirect method. In indirect method, we have electrical methods, seismic methods, gravitational methods, magnetic methods and acoustic methods.